Hello, good to see you today. Thank you for joining me. Today we'll be taking a look at the character designs of Monster Hunter Wilds. This is a new game that has launched recently. I personally have not played the game yet as I'm very busy with my work schedule finishing up my upcoming games. So it is unfortunate I haven't had a chance to play the game yet. I do enjoy the Monster Hunter games, but at the moment this is just going to end up on my backlog, like many other titles. So I have not played the game. I don't know anything about these characters. I don't know who they are. But what I hope to share with you, if you are interested in art and character design, especially when it comes to video games, then this video hopefully will be quite useful and informational to you. Or if you are just a gamer like me and you just enjoy looking at cool characters and want to hear a little bit about the process that goes into creating these characters, then this video is definitely for you. So I hope you enjoy the video and have some fun here. So I do know the characters' names. I did see them on the website where I got the pictures from. So this is Gemma. And right off the bat, it's such great posing. It's something I noticed with all this art is great posing here. The characters all adhere to a consistent universal palette. And if you are not careful when you do that, then your characters in your game world look quite bland. I've seen videos and pictures of the game. It's sandy. If you know anything about sand, it is rough, it is coarse, and it is irritating, and it does get everywhere. And the color palette for sand is quite dull. So the fact that they've chosen character color palettes that are quite subdued is such an interesting decision to me, but it makes the world look and feel coherent. It makes it feel like it's all part of a coherent vision, as opposed to just throwing colors everywhere and saying, look how many colors we can do. Look at all the great colors that we've put into this character. So something to consider is material. We're going to have a look at the materials here. I'm just going to quickly have a look here. We appear to have some sort of wool, which is quite rough. I don't like the thickness of this brush. Let's go ahead and dial that back a little. So we have a wool. We have some sort of leather here. Some sort of this. Yeah, this is kind of some sort of more. It's a hide that is a bit less specular. It's less shiny. And then you have a sort of a shinier leather here. There appear to be some sort of metal caps on the boots here as well. You have some monster scales here. Now, something to consider about the materials. This is something that I notice Monster Hunter games do quite effectively and extremely well in this game, is internal logic. The internal logic of where do these materials come from. In these games, characters hunt monsters and then they turn monsters into clothes. They turn animals into materials, which is a little bit sad, but hey, that's the game. And so it's interesting to consider that you're going to see a lot of materials that are leather and hide because that's where these come from. You see the scales here that come from some sort of dragon type creature. So in previous videos about character design, we discussed things like color. And here it's I don't really need to discuss the color so much, but we'll just have a quick look at our dynamic here. So our hair would be our light tones, which is broken up by a darker tone here. We have our light tones, light to mid tones in the skin. So that's a light tone here. Yeah, you could consider that more of a mid tone really, because there isn't really much else. You have now that would be our light tone. You have a mid tone in the jacket, a mid tone here, and then you have the darker tones here and here. So you can see we have, I've drawn lines everywhere. I just realized it's not that useful. So you have your I'll just mark out the use of the dark tones here. That's actually quite a dark tone. That's more of a mid-tone more so than anything else. So you can see we have 3 layers of the dark tones. We also have some verticality and asymmetry here. Good use of diagonal lines. This is a dark tone. Those are all part of it as well. So those are the dark tones here. That's all free flowing. So those are our dark. Let's go ahead and have a look at our mid tones. We have our mid tones here, here, and here. So you see they're in layers. It's quite good layering. And then we have our lighter tones, which would be here, but that's also here, and our lighter tones here and here. So you can see we've properly layered the use of our tonal dynamic. We have good dynamic distribution here. We also have this reflective material that catches light, and it can, despite the fact that it is a darker tone because of its reflectivity, it can also catch the light and serve as a lighter tone depending on the lighting. So it makes the character look quite interesting. So I find this quite interesting. We'll have a look at the use of our colors here. We have basically our identifying colors are red and yellow, or it's sort of a darker yellow, right? We have the red present in the jacket, which is quite prominent on the character, but we also have the undershirt, which is excellent. This is an excellent way to have the consistency throughout the character, to have cohesion, because you have the red here and you also have red here. We have a little bit of the red showing through here, which is quite subtle, but it is her undergarments that have the red just there. Her little bunny wabbit has red there. Even the tools, the pencils here, have a little bit of red. So there is cohesion in this character. It's well considered, quite nice. We have good use of asymmetry with the single gauntlet here and the belt sagging down with the various elements. Good use of asymmetry. One shortcut with character design, if you need your characters to really visually pop and look more interesting, is to use asymmetry. So this is an excellent character. I don't want to give a rating. I'm not going to give ratings to these characters. I'm going to give this one S rank, though. That's an S rank. Good character. We also have that light. We have a blue there, right? Which is different from anything else on the character. So it adds a little bit more interest, but it's not so different that it distracts from the rest of the character. And if you have a look at her eyes, you can see the attention to detail that this hair tie is the same color as her eyes, which is visually cohesive. So that's well considered. But because this is a different color that doesn't exist anywhere else on the character, and it does complement the eyes, it actually draws your attention away from what is quite visually busy. It draws your attention away from that and towards where we really want to direct the viewer's attention, which is basically this area. We really want, that's a funny shape. We basically want the viewer to look at a character's face. That's how we communicate. We see people's faces. So, double S. There we go. That is a double S ranking. But I'm not doing rankings on this. The next character, this is the second time I've seen this character. My first time was looking at the character this morning as I put this into the document. So this is a character that just going based on visual communication, this tells me that this character probably doesn't do much battling, is probably quite scholarly because of the posing with the book there. She has more gentle, delicate features. She looks more like the book type, so I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but she looks less prepared. She's using softer materials, right? The materials often communicate the life of a character, their ruggedness. This is sort of a cloth material, the pants that seem to probably be like maybe like a romper, or I don't know, like a overalls, I suppose, maybe. A skin tight, showing sort of a delicate frame. We have the softer materials carried on through here, which I believe this is probably wool, this material here. On the inner lining of the coat, it appears to be, I cannot tell if that's supposed to be a sort of like a paisley pattern, but it is a softer material, whatever that is. Now, what I like with the expression of color here, our identifying colors are really red, black, and white on this character, but we have blue as an accent color. It is important to have your primary colors, which are your identifying colors, and black and white are quite neutral, which means that if you use black and white, that's more of a palette cleanser. You can sort of use an area of a character to make them just look a little less busy, but also you can introduce other colors without making the character look sloppy and messy. So I think this character looks a little more plain compared to Gemma because so much of the character is taken up by just black. Black also absorbs light in a way that it's hard to make it look more interesting, you know. But the patterning on the jacket, you see the trim here. We have an opportunity to use that trim. The trim's a different color, which serves as a highlight, and we are able to use multiple shades of this color on the jacket, which is just fantastic. You have the stitching here, which is very good attention to detail. Stitching on that. Now I'm noticing the asymmetry here is she has these leather greaves on her left arm, and then we also have this knee pad here, which is it's not exactly like a specular leather. It's more like a subdued hide, really. So that's good use of asymmetry. But to break up the tonal dynamic here, you see you have the darks here. You have dark, dark, but it's broken up by a mid-tone, which is also vertical. Good use of verticality. Now this is an excellent, excellent. I wasn't realizing how good this design is until just now. It's quite dull if you go from a mid-tone to your dark tones here, but we actually have our highlight tone, which is present here. That is our highlight tones. We have our dark tones. This is actually also a dark tone there, and then her hair is a dark tone. So those are the dark tones, the distribution of that. I don't know why I marked that there. This is really representative of the dark tones here, but then we also have verticality here, which is good. This is a character that uses more verticality than Gemma. We'll have a look at our midtones here, which is, well, this is really our midtone. This whole big deal is a midtone. And if we just sort of dial that down a little bit, you can see that this is also a midtone. Despite being a lighter color, the tone itself is a midtone. So these are midtones and big midtones here. But it is the contrast of the color here with the sleeve that makes it interesting, despite the fact that this area is quite boring. But we have our lighter tones here, our highlights here and here, which are quite subdued, but it's well placed. Now, something I really respect here is the use of the accent color. It is used asymmetrically. So we have this big sleeve here, asymmetric use of that color, but it's also present here. We have the accent color here, which again builds visual cohesion, but I really appreciate the use of this undershirt here as a highlight. So you can see that visually actually connects. This is the highlight, and it actually visually connects like that. So this is the area which the highlight is present. I think that's well presented. I do like the patchwork, not the patchwork, the patterning of the jacket here. You can see the seam lines and everything, and using trim here is quite nice as a highlight. So you see that highlight carries through, that actually serves as a highlight, but then the highlight actually does carry through here as well. So that is well considered. I do like this. You see the trim as well. You have a highlight trim here, even though it's not as bright. Something that I don't like about this character design is there's a little bit of I would say ill consideration for internal logic. I do understand this game takes place very much in the sand, where sand is rough and coarse and irritating and it gets everywhere. And she's wearing these things, and I just gotta say, you're going to walk about 5 steps and these puppies are filling up with sand, and she is gonna get sand all in there. So personally, when I see something like that in a game, I kind of think maybe you didn't consider the character enough, because if you have a look at Gemma, like, she's not getting sand in there, right? That is sandproof. IP79, I guess, is what they use to determine sandproofing, but that is not. That's problematic. Okay, so let's go ahead and have a look at Palico. Here's a little friend. This is a simpler design. It's quite nice. We'll just quickly have a look here. If we just sort of, I mean, this is quite a small character, so it's difficult to get characters to look dynamic when they are small on the screen. You have to put in a bit more work to make them really visually pop, and I believe that is why we have so much prominence of the highlights here and here, and then good use of the highlights here. I believe that helps the character stand out in the environment. But this is quite a simple character. I mean, that The identifying color is basically just this bright yellow thing. You have this wood backpack, and you have what I think is like a coconut helmet. I suppose that'd do the trick. I don't really have that much to say about this design, really. It's quite simple. The yellow on the character is quite similar to the skin, and on a human character, I would say this is kind of not ideal. Having clothes that are a similar color to a human skin is quite unpleasant. One, because it's a wasted opportunity and it makes the character look boring, and two, it kind of makes the character look naked. But this is a little kitty cat friend. And so having clothes that are similar color and tone to his fur is actually okay. And in this situation, it's actually good. It helps the character look a little bit more organic. If you have a look at the tone, though, it is a little bit darker than his arms, his actual fur. So, that's all right. We have this nice, lovely, bright red highlight here, which is visually cohesive, because this may not be the same red, but it is similar enough. It's sort of a brown situation going on. So that's quite good. You have these green nipple guards. You have these green nipple guards, and they basically match the coconut helmet here. You have a little happy face just here. I love little iconography like this. Which, sort of is consistent with this little happy face. So this guy's got two little happy faces, and I personally feel like the more happy faces, the better. So this design, I think, yeah, you know what? I didn't realize how good it was until taking a closer look. This is a really good design. I really like this. We see the straps of his bag there, but this is a detail I quite like here. This is leather that comes through there, but we have a little bit of interest and visual cohesion when we have leather here. It's this sort of, monster leather that's quite brown. It appears to be probably the same leather that's used on his tiny little nubs down here. But we appear to have an undershirt that seems to be a bit more refined. It's a sleeker, shinier, I would say it's probably leather in there, that adds dynamic to the character. So it's shinier. It's a darker color, but it is shinier. This is a cool design. I really like this. I really like the visual cohesion of the fur being used here, and the fur also, being prominent here. Great. Excellent. I like this very much. Palico. So I'm assuming so far these three characters, because they're visually dense, they have high color complexity, and they're visually dense. This tells me that these are probably a significant part of the story. They probably feature prominently. So I would say that they're probably quite important to the story. This design is very simple. This is a very simple design. As I said before, black and white are generally palette cleansers, but unfortunately they're also quite boring colors. So to feature it so prominently, like this whole area here, we'll just mark this out through verticality here. That, and then this whole area here is quite boring. That they're using palette cleansing colors. And again, black and white give you the opportunity to introduce other colors without making things look so messy. This design here uses blue atop a turquoise, which is not a choice I personally would have done, but it... So the problem with these colors is that they're very close together. They're too similar. They're similar in color, but not similar enough. And when colors are somewhat similar, but not similar enough, they actually clash. And to me, this is visually quite noisy, and I don't really like what I'm looking at. What they could have done is made one of these colors a bit darker. There's probably a reason, because all of these character designs have been so good. They're so well considered that I'm certain there is a reason for this. Whoever designed this, obviously is trying to say something about this character. It's likely that this character because they're young, of course, they're trying to say this character is less experienced. They know less about the world. They look less prepared. They look less experienced and knowledgeable and well considered when it comes to the world that they inhabit. I do like that there's. I changed my mind. I don't like it. This is the highlight. This is the sole highlight here. It is occupying a huge portion of the character. This is a highlight. And then this is the highlight. And you would think it would be good if this was also a highlight, but this is a mid-tone color that does not appear anywhere else. So there's no visual cohesion here. This doesn't appear anywhere else, but we do have some asymmetry here. I do like the asymmetry of this. I like that asymmetry here. The pockets are symmetrical. There is a use of material here. I cannot determine if this is supposed to be some sort of leather that is part of the shirt, but there is an errant detail here that I really dislike that is extremely unpleasant to me, and I do not like. So we need to be very adult about these conversations, and we are discussing a young character, so we need to address this topic very carefully, but errant details are extremely important. There's an errant detail, whether the designers intended for this to draw attention to it or not, but in the crotch area of characters, errant details can draw attention in a way. They can evoke shapes that we don't actually want or need, and this is something that there's this detail should not be there on this character, and I'm not trying to be funny here. And I'm saying this as a professional. That should not be there. Whatever that is, that needs to be removed. Were I to advise on this design, I would say get that out of there. That doesn't need to be there. Were I to advise on this, I would not have signed off on this design. I'm going to be honest right now. This is not a good design. I would have adjusted the colors on this. I would have made this inner coat just a little different. And I'm not saying that they've done a bad job here. I don't know the people that have made this character design, but I'm not here to insult them. I'm not trying to say that I would do a better job than these people. They've done a great job on this game. I'm just saying that I would have made that inner coat lighter, and I would have saturated that blue just a little bit more here. I'm just going to make some minor, I just want to do a very minor adjustment. So I'm going to make the body area of this coat just a little more saturated and blue, just a little more separated in terms of tone from the undergarment, or the undershirt, the undercoat here. And then what we'll do is adjust the trim here, because there does appear to be some differentiation in the material. The trim, I'm just going to lighten that a little bit so it serves as a little bit of color dynamic, because it's all flowing a medium tone into a dark tone, and it's just a little bit dull to me when all the other characters are so interesting to look at, and this one is a little dull. And what I'm going to do is just very lightly just brighten these cloth greaves or whatever they are here just a little bit. Now, I may be making this worse. I'm not saying that I'm doing a better job than the actual developers and artists who have done this, right? I'm not saying that I would do a better job. I'm just saying that if I had to create this character's design, this is how I personally would have just polished the end here. I've gone a little too far on the coat, on the vest here, so I'm just going to brighten that up a little bit. I've gone a little too far. I just really wanted it more saturated is really what I wanted here. Okay. And I still don't like the color similarity, but that's just how it is. Okay. I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it like that. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and compare that to, this is before and after. All right. Before and after. And it's very, it's not a big deal. It's very subtle, right? The sort of, let's just go ahead and clear that out here. Right. So here's the original, and here is the one with the modification that I've made. Basically, I've just made the vest more blue, so it is identifiably more separate from the tone of the undercoat. And I've made the undercoat lighter. And I've just adjusted the trim here so that there is at least some difference in the distribution of the tones there. I don't know if I like this one better. I don't know. I could have made it worse, but that's personally how I would have done it. But they've done a great job on this game. I'm not saying that this is better. I'm saying if this was one of my characters that I was designing, I would have separated the tones a little bit more. But I don't like this design. So I will be giving this one a... Oh. This is a D minus. It's a D minus. It's a D meh. Nada gets a D meh. This is Hunter. I don't want to harp on too long about this. This is sort of the player character here. There's so many details here. This is quite detail dense and detail rich. Something that I noticed they do with the Monster Hunter games is the higher the detail density, the more important the character is. And I will show you further examples of that. But this is the busiest, most complex character. And that visibly tells us this person's important, and this person is you. You're important. What I like about the two characters here is that they are male and female, which are the two options. And despite, they're looking so different, they share a number of similar traits, which is so cool. I really enjoy when characters give you the option to pick one of the only two genders that exist, and you see similarities in the designs despite the fact that they're different. You have this sort of metal gauntlet here, which also is represented here. It's so neat. There is an identifiable color here, which is this orange, and it's got this neat little pattern. Very cool, very cool, which is also present here and here. They both have that represented on the inside of their collars, which is such a cool way. Flaring out the collar is a sign of power, confidence, and masculinity, and it's so cool to have that flared out like that. Very cool. I really like that, having that color balance there. But if you see it, it's so important. This color's so important because it breaks up the visual monotony of these characters. Otherwise, it would be very dull. It'd be so boring here. And there's many other ways to accidentally take things too far and then make it boring, or not boring, make it too busy, right? You also have this metal breastplate on the inside. Very cool. This character has a sort of I think like a breathing mask, I would assume for the sand. And then this character, this is cool. I really like this. This is such an interesting way. So this evokes the look of sort of like a cap, like a modern cap from our world. So already it uses evocation to sort of elicit, hey, this is a cool dude. This is like a hip hop dude with attitude. Even though it's not a cap from our real world, it evokes the memory and the thought of one. Excellent way to do that. It looks like there are goggles there as well. So I would assume that when he brings that down, this might be a full face mask, and maybe that's what it is. But the fact that it looks like a mask is really cool. We also have a soft material on the right hand with this glove and padding here, which is also represented here. A little bit of Yuffie Kisaragi vibes going on there. We have the asymmetrical tool pouch there, and then we also have the belt coming down here. We have the details of this dude has this sort of armor padding here, which I think he has on the other side as well. I can't see what's on the other side of that. This character has a tool pouch because with female characters, because there are only two genders, you need to be really careful with female characters. If you make female characters look bulky, they look bad. You want to accentuate and express the female form without slutifying that character. How do you make a female character? How do you accentuate the form? How do you show that form without slutifying the character? That is a fine balance that artists have to put in effort. You have to work hard to make that look good without slutifying the character. And there are people who are not good at it, and their only approach is to slutify the character. And artists who are not comfortable with the female body will just give them big old baggy pants because they're uncomfortable showing the female body. This is an excellent design. This is my first time really taking a close look at it. Oh wow, I really like the balance of this. So you see, the character is actually, because there's a lot going on here. There's a detailed dense. There's a lot of bulk here. If she did not have the large boots, it would actually taper off, and the detailed density down here would be significantly lower. It'd have very weak distribution of detail density. It'd be very low here and very high here. But because the boots are larger and it sort of fans out, you know, it makes the figure a little bigger down here. It actually balances out the character. S. I'm not giving rankings. These aren't grades or rankings. I'm just saying this one's S. This is an S plus. How do you make this into a happy face? That's not a happy face. This is... I need to workshop that. This is an S plus. Olivia. Now, this is a character. Again, I'm not going to carry on for too long on these, but I feel this is not like a party member or an important story character. The reason I feel that is there's a lack of color complexity. Basically our identifying color is this light green here, and it's not that prominent. It's really present under the collar here like that. I'm not seeing it. There may be some here. I'm not really seeing it all that well. But we do also have white as quite a prominent color. We break that up here with this sort of brown leather. Metal is an a unique identifying material here, which is quite prominent here, all throughout here. And of course, vertically, we have that metal here. And it's interesting. It's interesting that they didn't use that down at the bottom. I think the artist determined there was probably too much metal going on already, and so they've left this a leather situation. So we have the tough leather all through there, but I do like this detail here, is that this appears to be a sort of wool, or yeah, that looks like it's meant to be some kind of wool. So it's a softer material that offsets the harshness of the leathers and the metal. And we also have what is, it may not necessarily be wool, but it has a similar texture to that. We have that up here as well. So we do have visual cohesion. This is a strong design, but it isn't as detail dense as, say, for example, the Hunters. You can tell when you see these characters side by side, you can tell which ones, if we just move this over here, you can tell which one's the main character is by the detail density and how complex they are. So this is fine. This is a fine design. It's pretty good. I don't know who this character is, but I'd be willing to say this is a character that maybe you take missions from, or they come in and they just share a little bit of story, but there's no way they're a part of the party. This character, I do not know who this is, but there is a 0% chance that he would be part of the party. And there's a 0% chance that he engages with the player, like going on adventures and tagging along, because he's too symmetrical, too clean, and too simple, and the color complexity just is not there. His identifying color is this, and we basically have what is represented as black as a palette cleanser, and we have a dark brown here. So we have brown for the boots, but they are used very well here. Brown for the stitching, which is very cool. Great way to make that coat look interesting, because there are no seam lines. You know, we don't have different patches of the jacket that are broken up with seams or trim as we did with Gemma. So this coat would be extremely boring if it were not for the leather stitching there. Very nice. We have the leather on the tops of the pockets there, which is a great visual motif that is carried on through the shoulders here. Excellent jacket. If you were to say, like, tear one arm off and then leave the other arm on and then put like some sort of metal plating like on the bottom here for some reason, this would be a main character coat. You just need a little bit of asymmetry and then this would be worn by a main character. We have which is basically the same color as just a lighter shade of that, so it's the light tones. So this is a very, it's a fine design. There's nothing wrong with it. It's totally competent. It's bland, but not in a bad way. It's bland in that obviously this is a character that fits into this world. He's cohesive with the world that he inhabits. He looks like he exists in the same world as Gemma and the hunters, but it's obvious that this is less important. This character is less important. Now, you could do something like, if you change the color of this, if you made this blue and then you added like fur trim that was blue down here, and then you made, you know, his gloves like a trim with a furry blue, that would basically be enough to make him look like a main party member or a story character. So this is a fine design, nothing wrong with it. I think it's excellent. This is a great design. It does exactly what it needs to do. Again, I don't know. Please let me know if I'm right or wrong, but I'm willing to bet this character does not go on adventures with you. Next, we have Werner. So this is obviously, again, like more of like a background character. And I'm just very quickly, everyone loves these pouches here. Everyone's got to have these tool bags. I can get behind that, I believe. I'm just willing to bet this is like a blacksmith or something. There's not much to say. I put this character here because he has the absolute bare minimum of tonal dynamic. You know, you have some lights here, you have the darks here, mid-tones here, but it's not to the same degree as we saw with the other characters. He's still interesting, like this sort of shiny leather. There's sort of like a similar material, not the same thing, but similar going on there, with these nice diagonal lines for some visual interest and asymmetry. This is a similar material to this, but a different color, which is an interesting, yeah, that's interesting. But it's clear that this is like a shopkeeper. And again, I just want to hammer home the point. It is obvious that this character exists in the same world because they have similar internal logic. The internal logic is considered, why does this character exist in this world? How does this character exist in this world? And what role do they play? And to me, they've done an excellent job showcasing this character does exist in the same world as those other characters. He's just not as important. He's less visually complex. There's less color complexity here. I just noticed, this is cool. So whatever this sort of hide material is, you have a leather on top of that, which is nice, and then this sort of stitching here. So even a character that's meant to look similar still has very interesting detail. There's great attention to detail here. The tunic, you can see the tunic coming in. This character has these diagonal lines, which seem to be a visual motif. And that is present. Great visual motif, but also tic-tac-toe lines, which is great. Great, 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 great. This character is not meant to be great, but you know what? This is an A+. A+ to Werner. This is our last character, Eric. I'm going to assume this is Bugcatcher Eric. He has a similar vibe to, what's her name, Alma? And look, there isn't much that I can say that I haven't already covered before. But again, this is a step up from Werner, right? Werner is, this is this guy. This is this guy. This character looks like he runs a shop, and this character looks like he might be, you might take him on an escort mission to go find bugs. I'm trying to discern I'm extrapolating some information here. He's got a little bug jar, but it's a scholarly character. I think they pose scholarly characters with books here. I think is what they're trying to do. I really like the asymmetry. I'll just comment on design elements that I like here. I like the asymmetry of the collar opening up. To me, these high collars tell me that maybe this character wears these high collars to avoid sand. If there's a sandstorm, they put the collar up. Visually, to me, that is what this is saying. If I'm looking at this as a viewer, I'm looking at the design elements. That is what I am interpreting. The fact that it opens up gives it a sense of casualness, a bit of rebellious attitude. I really like that there is the highlight tone inside the collar, which is great. It's really well considered. I really like the highlight tones being used on the inside of the clothes. That's something that I see as quite consistent across all of these designs, is we use highlight tones as the inside of the clothing, which is not something I see all that often in character designs, which is really great. So I really like that. This is really cool design philosophy. I really like the use of trim here to separate. This is sort of a hide material. And then you have this neat patterned leather up top. Really neat. I like that very much. This is so cool. You have this high collar. You have wool on the inside to break up the visual monotony. You have another layer, which is a mid. This is cool. Actually, changed my mind. I really like this design. Holy crap, this is a good design. You have a bit of red here. It's broken up, you know, by just being asymmetrical, and broken up by having this light tan pattern here. But this tan pattern is the same color as this. So we have visual cohesion, which also is the same color as the hair and the collar here. We have these sort of, these open up. They kind of look like shorts. And shorts are something we kind of associate with people who are younger, sort of youthful, because shorts are comfortable and easy to wear. So even though these may not be shorts, they evoke the sense of shorts. They evoke the thought or the memory of shorts. We have internal greaves. The legs are quite, the ankles are quite thin, so it is expressing a sense of, you know, a little bit of fragility, a little bit of, you know, maybe this character isn't a big, bulky, tough guy. Oh, I really like this. I like this detail here. This is leather. So these appear to be some sort of like a hide or cloth there. And then you have leather here to break that up. Very cool. Good use of trim just there. This is rolled up to kind of make it seem like maybe the pants didn't really fit them and they had to roll it up. So this is such a good design. It's meant to be simple. It's not complicated. This is such a good design. Again, the baggy clothes, like everything on this character is ill-fitting, right? The clothes seem ill-fitting, which seems like it makes this character feel like ragtag and improvised. So there's so much personality and attitude in this design. I don't know anything about this character. I kind of like this character. Unfortunately, it feels like there's so much less detail complexity. I don't feel like this is a character that accompanies you on your journey because they feel a little too simple. I feel like this might be like just a side quest character. I'm gonna say it. I'm not giving rankings. I like it. Anyway, thanks very much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed those breakdowns. I hope if you're into character design and anything like that, I hope this has been useful or educational in some way. And if you're just into games, I hope you've enjoyed taking a look at sort of the process that goes into building, constructing a character. I just want to thank the Patreon supporters. Thank you so much. I try to use your contributions to get things for the channel so I can make fun, cool, interesting, funny videos for you. I've just done a bonus video that's exclusive to Patreon. I've never done that before, but I'm just unboxing some props and things that I bought for the studio, so I'll put that on Patreon. It's nothing big. It's just, you know, it's just a fun little way to hang out for the Patreon supporters, and I'll put that video there, and yeah, we can just hang out a little bit more. So thanks very much for watching. And if you would like to see some other character analyses videos, I'll put them on the screen now. So please feel free to view those. Thank you very much. Please be well. Take care. Do your best. I'll see you next time.